Peru's caretaker president, Dina Boluarte, is refusing to step down and is urging Congress to allow early elections after lawmakers voted against the proposal. Unrest began when Pedro Castillo was arrested for trying to illegally dissolve Congress. Castillo's supporters are calling his removal a coup. 22 people have died so far in clashes with police.
Police fire tear gas at demonstrators blocking an airport in southern Peru. One of many protests that erupted across the country after lawmakers removed former President Pedro Castillo from office last week. Over 20 people have died in the unrest, and rights groups accused authorities of using excessive force in their response to the protests. The former president still has wide support, especially among Peru's indigenous communities. And protesters brought trucks to a standstill at this border crossing between Peru and Bolivia.
We want the immediate dissolution of Congress. We want Dina Boluarte to resign. We want new elections as soon as possible.
But Peru's Congress recently threw out a bill that would allow early elections. Caretaker President Dina Boluarte has not caved to demands calling for her to resign, but she's calling on Congress to reconsider the bill.
There's a group that says Dina should resign. What does my resignation solve? Does it solve the problem? It doesn't. We will be here firmly until Congress decides to bring forward the elections.
In the capital Lima, a rally for peace. Demonstrators called for unity and dialogue. It's not clear if the caretaker government can deliver that.
All right, well, let's take a little bit more of a look at this topic. And we're going to speak now to Dan Collins. He's a multimedia journalist and filmmaker covering Latin America, and he's based in the Peruvian capital, Lima. Welcome to DW. So tell us, why is the Parliament against the early elections despite the President's calls for them?
Well, Pablo, there's a simple answer to that, and that is that for most of the Congress people, they would lose their jobs. All of them would lose their jobs if there were new elections, because there would be new general elections, meaning a new president and a new legislature. So, of course, they would be out of a job. And as it currently stands, if there are no new elections, they would stay in Congress until 2026. Now, in the vote on Friday, which rejected the proposal to bring forward elections, there was a small minority that voted in favor of bringing forward the elections. Some of the Congress people are saying, perhaps more responsibly, that the country needs these new elections to get out of the current crisis. But this is part of the problem, and this is part of the lack of legitimacy which the Congress has among the Peruvian people, because the perception is, and this is often backed up by some evidence, that there is basically, as the Peruvian protesters have called it, a rat's nest. And I quote, a rat's nest of corrupt interests and lobbies. And that is why many Peruvian people feel that the Congress doesn't represent their best interests. And that's why they feel that elections are necessary and that Congress should be closed.
So if that's the feeling, then what's the solution, really?
Well, that's a very good question. The country is in flux at the moment. As we heard in the report, Dina Boluarte has said that she won't step down, and she has reiterated calls to bring forward elections as the solution to the current crisis. She is also facing massive calls to resign from the protesters, and that is largely due to the handling of these protests. As we heard, more than 20 dead. There are more than something like 350 injured, and the roadblocks continue. There's currently blocking the border crossing between Peru and Bolivia. And we have heard that rights groups have also condemned the use of excessive force by the security forces in Peru. And that happened as a result of a declaration of emergency on Wednesday, a national emergency, which meant that soldiers could be deployed to control public disorder. And that has led to a significant rise in deaths. And with each protester that dies, there's more outrage, the protests spread, and the calls for Dina Boluarte to resign keep on.
Dan Collins, a journalist reporting from the Peruvian capital, Lima. Thanks for joining us on DW.